Good morning. So grateful to be joined today by DPCC Chair Debbie Dingell and Co-Chair Lori Trahan. Both of those members, and of course Vice Chair Ted Lieu, both of those members are on the Energy and Commerce Committee. As we all know, House Republicans are running scared this week because they plan to take away health care for millions of Americans while rewarding billionaires with tax giveaways. And these members will speak specifically to that. Most endangered members on the other side of the aisle have already voted to cut Medicaid by $880 billion, and Speaker Johnson is scrambling now to give them cover. And his most extreme members, by the way, those are the ones that he owes having the gavel to, are going to revolt if Medicaid cuts aren't as harmful to working families as possible. All of this is taking place against the backdrop of an economy that is in a free fall. We're heading toward a recession, a supply chain crisis that will result in more price hikes, and all of this is because of Donald Trump's policies. He lied to the American people when he said he'd lower costs on day one, and he lied to them over the weekend when he said that he won't cut Medicaid. Trump's lies are going to cost people their jobs, their livelihoods, potentially their homes, and he could care less because his billionaire friends and family get rich. House Republicans should use this time, this free week that they have, to vote on policy that matters for everyday Americans. But instead, they should be talking about turning off tariffs that are reckless and dangerous. But instead, we're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill to rename the Gulf of Mexico. A slap in the face to hardworking Americans who want their leaders to bring down the cost of living, the cost that they face each and every day in childcare, in healthcare, in gas, groceries, rent. Those are things that the American public cares about, and those are the things that House Republicans are ignoring each and every day. With that, I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. Honored to be here with DPCC Chair Dingell and Co-Chair Trahan. You may have seen recent reports showing that 19 billion passwords were hacked and put online. So my public service announcement for today is change your password. Unless you're Pete Hegseth, because you have no concept of operational security. Pete Hegseth texted advanced information on combat operations to random people more than once on a Signal application. And we know from recent reporting that the Signal app that the Trump administration was using was a modified version done by telemessage. We know at least Mike Waltz was using that. Maybe that's one reason he was fired by Donald Trump. I urge reporters to ask Pete Hegseth if he also was using the modified Signal application that was hacked. Now I'd like to talk about Medicaid. So we know that Republicans voted already through the budget resolution to cut $880 billion of Medicaid. Now they're talking about imposing red tape requirements. I want you to understand what that means. That means every Medicaid recipient would have to fill out immense amounts of paperwork. They try to do this in Alabama and Georgia and end up achieving no cost savings. And Medicaid is so important to America. 2/3 of patients in nursing homes are funded through Medicaid. In addition, people get life-saving health care through Medicaid. And what happens if people don't get health care through Medicaid? Well, guess what? They're still going to get health care by walking into the emergency room and getting treated that way, which is even more expensive. If you make cuts in Medicaid, it's going to close down hospitals, including rural hospitals. So we urge Republicans to vote no on the dramatic Medicaid cuts. And now it's my great honor to introduce DPCC Chair Debbie Dingell. We came in the freshman class together. She's done a fantastic job as chair of the DPCC, and look forward to her remarks.
Thank you, Ted. And Pete was in our class, too. It was a great class. I want to thank Pete and Ted for bringing us together this morning. And as Pete said at the beginning, in addition to my role as DPCC chair, I'm also a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, which is ground zero for the Medicaid cuts that you were seeing the Republicans talk about. I want to be really clear with you. I've spent a lot of time at home, been in a lot of town hall meetings, in a lot of rallies, and in grocery stores, and in union halls. Donald Trump's economic policies are making life harder for everyday Americans. Costs are increasing, and every family is feeling the squeeze. And House Republicans are making things worse. Their budget cuts for Medicaid by nearly $900 billion is the largest Medicaid cut in history. The impact would be devastating in every corner of this country. And I know, believe me, the Democrats and Republicans are hearing about these cuts from constituents who are terrified about what it means for them. People like Katie in my district, whose son Nathan is 6 years old. Nathan was born premature and has required more than 15 procedures on his airway to help him breathe. As she told me, some of those procedures have cost $20,000 or more. And without Medicaid, there's no way that Katie and her family would be able to meet Nathan's complex medical needs. When I was at Michigan, just on the way to visit a doctor, a woman started crying in the elevator with their child in a wheelchair and said, "What will I do if I can't bring my child here, if they cut me?" 75% of the children at Children's Hospital in Detroit are on Medicaid. And seniors said to me, "Are they going to kick my husband out on the street from a nursing home?" That's the stories that people are telling us. Medicaid's a lifeline. It keeps children healthy, it helps parents work, and it cares for seniors in nursing homes. The American people cannot afford Medicaid cuts, especially as the economy is being crashed around them by President Trump. House Democrats are fighting to stop this Republican budget and save Medicaid. We have been active across the country with hundreds of local events, raising the human stories, having people understand these aren't numbers. It's human lives. And more importantly, we're raising more stories in every community so people know who it's going to be impacting. And that's what we're going to continue to do until this Republican budget is defeated. So with that, let me yield to my DPCC co-chair and fellow Energy and Commerce Committee member, Lori Trahan.
Well, thank you, Chair Dingell, and thank you to Chair Aguilar and Vice Chair Liu for hosting us this morning. Republicans in Congress are locked in a debate this week about everything that you need to know of their priorities. They're trying to decide how to pay for massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors, and they've narrowed it down to two options: kick millions of Americans off of their health care by slashing Medicaid, or take food off the table for working families by cutting nutritional assistance. And let's be honest, Donald Trump doesn't care which one they choose, as long as they send what he calls a big, beautiful bill to the White House. But there's nothing beautiful about ripping health care away from millions of Americans. Medicaid is a lifeline. It's prenatal care for moms. It's nursing home care for seniors. It's the support for kids with disabilities that they need to thrive in school. Republicans aren't doing this to fix the economy or to reduce the deficit or to get rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. They're doing it so Elon Musk can buy another private jet. Meanwhile, families are already making impossible choices every day. Do I pay for medicine or do I buy groceries? Do I take my child to the doctor or do I pay my utility bills? And now Republicans want to make those choices even harder. Well, House Democrats have a message for our colleagues across the aisle. If you're going to gut Medicaid so your billionaire buddies can get a tax cut that's bigger than what most teachers make in their lifetimes, we're going to make it as painful as possible. We're going to fight back, and we're going to go to your districts and explain what you're doing. And we're going to help your constituents vote you out next November. That's our focus, that's our fight, and that's our promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Questions? No one wants to go first? Cassie?
I'll go first. Two quick questions for you and the Vice Chair, more California focused. I'm wondering first your reaction to the President's suggestion of this foreign film tariff. and what that might look like, and also your reaction to these reports coming out of the Senate side that Republicans are considering going around the Senate parliamentarian and holding a vote on this California vehicle initiative that came out of the House Republicans.
I'll take that piece first. It would be unprecedented for Senate Republicans to turn away the position of the parliamentarian. It's very clear, and the GAO report on that spells it out, that this is not subject, waivers are not subject to CRAs. In our world, these are lots of acronyms, here, but in our world, the Senate parliamentarian has ruled that it does not have privilege to come to the Senate. If Senate Republicans want to blow up that process, they will do so, but it will be at a cost. And so we would encourage our colleagues on both sides of the aisle to respect the bipartisan nature, the nonpartisan nature of the parliamentarians who help guide these operations here. With respect to foreign film piece, this is just another. I wasn't sure where you were going with this question, whether this is foreign films or whether this is Alcatraz, right? This is just nonsensical, like what he sends out, late night tweets, as a matter of policy are just nonsensical. There are things that we can do to increase production for the film industry to film in the United States. We should be looking at those ideas and strategies, not reckless tariffs that will cost people jobs and raise costs for Americans. That's consistent with what this president has been proposing time and time again is his public policy solutions.
Regarding Donald Trump's random tariff imposition now on movies, I just want to say in the California State Legislature, I was a co-author of their film and TV tax credit. I think that is the way to go because that doesn't actually increase costs on movies. A tariff on movies, foreign movies, would increase costs on movies, and no one in Hollywood was asking for a 100% tariff. Donald Trump didn't appear to have talked to anyone about the 100% tariff on foreign movies. It just seems like another random idea that he put out there with no thought about how it would actually be implemented, because if it was implemented, it would increase consumer costs on movies. Also, it would just make some movies really far less interesting, right? So if All Quiet on the Western Front had to be renamed All Quiet on the U.S. side of the Canadian border, much less interesting movie. So there's just no thought behind what Donald Trump is doing with his indiscriminate tariffs.
It's pretty consistent through line. Nick?
I want to ask about ranking members. Do you have any sense of when you might call an election for the position that might soon be vacated by Congressman Connolly, or perhaps for the Agriculture Committee?
There's currently no vacancies for any ranking member positions. If there's a vacancy, the vice chair and I will call an election in accordance with House Democratic Caucus rules. But there's no vacancy at this point. I said that last week, and that remains the case. Michael and Mika.
House Financial Services Democrats walked out of a crypto hearing, and they're holding their own shadow hearing to spotlight Trump's ties to the crypto industry. As you all continue to make your economic case for the American people, cryptocurrency continues to be an emerging issue that matters for a lot of Americans. Does bypassing bipartisan opportunities to debate the issue, does that risk undermining your message on working with Republicans to find common ground on these issues that all Americans care about? Crypto really isn't a partisan issue, but it seems to be becoming that way with a lot of the rancor that's happening on both sides of the Capitol.
We want bipartisan solutions, but we have also said, the focus should be on how we drive down costs that Americans face. That should be our focus, our goal, our North Star, and we should, if Speaker Johnson and Donald Trump were serious about lowering costs for folks, we wouldn't have the schedule that they have in front of us. That needs to be our focus, not in raising costs that for people who want to go to the movie theaters, not in kicking people off of healthcare coverage. That's not the appropriate place that we should be spending our time. There are bipartisan solutions, but what what clouds the water oftentimes, especially on this case, is the president and his family seeking to enrich themselves through meme coins, stablecoin, the crypto world. There are bipartisan solutions that Democrats are willing to embrace with respect to regulating this industry in a fair way, but we don't want that to mean that the president now has a new line of business, a new book of business for him and his family to profit off of. So that's, I think, what the Agriculture Committee Democrats and the Financial Service Committee Democrats are looking at and weighing as they make these decisions. Anybody else? Mika?
Thank you. I saw that Whip Clark was in Indianapolis for an event with Congressman Andre Carson last week. I know that he is facing one of the primary challengers. Do you expect leadership to step in and do more events with members facing younger primary challengers?
If members want us to visit, we try to accommodate and visit. I appreciate Whip Clark making the time to go to Indianapolis. I know she and Lori also spent part of the weekend at Molly McGovern's funeral. Being there for one another as part of our Democratic family is so incredibly important in this time for the McGovern family. So in between all of that, the fact that Whip Clark made time for Andre Carson in Indianapolis is great, and we appreciate that. I'm not as popular. The vice chair and I aren't as popular as other members of the leadership team, but when they ask, we will try to make a trip and accommodate and be helpful. Look, we are a Democratic caucus family, and just as we have done in the past few years, if members want us to travel and to be seen and to help them, town halls, events, political matters, we want to ensure our members succeed. And we want to be there for one another. And so that continues to be kind of a guiding force of this leadership team.
Thank you. The Texas Democratic Party is considering a resolution to condemn Henry Cuellar for a number of votes where he was one or two of the Democrats for a Republican bill, saying he has disregard for the values of the Texas Democratic Party, speaking of incumbent protection. One, do you oppose Texas Democrats condemning him for those reasons? Two, does Henry Cuellar have disregard for the values of the Democratic Party?
Henry Cuellar is a great member of the Democratic Caucus. I serve with him on the Appropriations Committee. He's a thoughtful public servant who always has the interests of South Texas and Laredo on his mind. He's always talking about international trade and the importance that brings to the U.S. and Texas economies. And so I'll let the Texas Democrats do what they need to do. I'm not a voter in that election, but Henry's contributions are vast and many within this caucus.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Tomorrow, the DOGE subcommittee is holding a hearing on men and women's sports. In your understanding, what does men and women's sports have to do with government efficiency? And then secondly, how should Democrats approach the issue of transgender participation in sports, given that it's not an issue that's necessarily split on party lines?
One, I have no idea what the DOGE committee has to do about this, but I assume, like many things that DOGE committee here in Congress does, it's part of some sort of handshake deal that Marjorie Taylor Greene extracted from Speaker Johnson. That's why she's leading the committee, and so they will get to talk about the issues that she wants to talk about. With respect to the issue, the president has put out an executive order. The NCAA has guidance. Each of our states have rules guiding sports in high school, athletics. In California, our law says that the student gets to decide where they participate. If Republicans want to add layers of government to that, they're free to engage in that debate. We feel that is a topic that is best left to our scholastic and sports authorities locally and parents in that case. And so I'd ask Lori to also come up because she's talked about this issue in the past as a Division I athlete. But House Democrats, there's no space in between House Democrats, on this issue. We oppose Marjorie Taylor Greene, adding this to a list of things that they want to affect. Again, this does nothing to address that their policies that they're advocating are to kick people off of health care coverage. Nothing talks about reducing costs or the burdens that Americans face. All of this is just for show.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really have anything to add. Chairman Aguilar covered it quite well. They look at this issue as something that they can just lodge a political win. Even though the president has signed an executive order, they should be moving on to the issues that actually matter and impact so many hardworking families in this country. But they won't because they keep coming back to this issue as though it's one that is relevant in people's lives. So look, I was a college athlete myself, and I've been pretty upfront about, where there's big differences between a transgender athlete playing at a collegiate level or a high school level and not letting 6-year-olds play in their youth soccer sports. And that's who they're targeting with these cruel policies, is not letting kids participate in youth leagues. It's totally government overreach, and we've got the structures in place to make those rules, but they're bypassing it because they look at it as a political opportunity. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Last question.
So I want to ask you about a bill you all are voting on this afternoon, HR 1516. What's your position? What are your thoughts more broadly on the DHS restrictions on Confucius Institutes and Chinese entities of concern?
This is an issue that's come up multiple times, in the last Congress as well. Again, just an absolute abject failure on behalf of a Republican majority to deal with issues that everyday Americans care about. They're not concerned about this. This bill would affect 5 college universities and campuses. Doesn't address driving down costs, doesn't address the healthcare crisis that they're starting, doesn't address driving up costs with tariffs. That's not what they choose to focus on. Instead, this is an attack on our higher education system. That said, the committee has marked this up. This has been a bipartisan bill in the past. We assume it's a bipartisan bill now. Members are going to vote their districts. There isn't. We are not whipping this bill. But again, it's just it's a missed opportunity because they're devoting debate time and floor time to a topic that doesn't have anything to do with what people really care about. Thank you so much.